It's part 2 of how to own your online presence. Today it's talking about how to get more client reviews.
On the Wandering But Not Lost podcast.
Welcome to Wandering But Not Lost, your online source for finding balance so that you can align, connect, and prosper.
I'm living right here and now, and I don't want to miss out. Is this what life's all about? The world is calling and I'm listening. Yeah, I'm listening.
And now your hosts, Jen O'Brien and Matt Emerson.
You've clicked on the Wandering But Not Lost podcast, where real estate and reality meet. This is episode 156. You can find all of our show notes over at wbnlpodcast.com. Jan, we're on to part 2.
Part 2, we've talked a little bit about this in the past, but really super important. I feel like it's even more important as months and years go by. People are going to Google you. So last week, in case you missed it, I walked through the key sites, like at least 5 of them that are important to have a presence on before you do what we're going to cover today, which is how to get clients to give you reviews on those sites once you have a successful closing with them. So just quick review, on the real estate side of things, you must have Zillow and Realtor.com.
Right.
I also talked a little bit about homes and home light if you have a lot of production, but Zillow and Realtor.com, why? Because when somebody Googles you, those are, and they put in real estate or your area or realtor, then those two are going to come up on the front page of Google for sure. And so you need to make strong profiles on those. And these are the 2 places that you really want to get reviews. We also talked about Facebook as a place to get reviews, Google My Business, because that's what will show up over on the right-hand side of a search and be in maps. And that really stands out. I think that's real important as well. And that you can use LinkedIn, of course. LinkedIn will show up a lot of times on your front page when somebody Googles you. And if you have recommendations and testimonials in there, that'll help you. And then we also cover things like Yelp. Yelp, if you are using it, can be great to you. And depending on what area of the world you are, it may be a hidden gem and a secret to generate some business. So today, though, Matt, we're going to talk about what do you have to do to get people to write a review.
And you know what? I'm going to tell when your mind is set on reviews, because we talk about reviews all the time. I think I must have given at least 5 reviews last week, and I believe now this is my new mantra that what goes around comes around, right? So if you throw your words of wisdom and happiness and joy and pleasure out there, they're going to come back to you tenfold. So when you get a review link, make sure you give a review.
You know what? That's a great point. And are they for some businesses or things? Because I was noticing that what I'm going to talk about today it's a really straightforward process, but the key is you can't ask once. You must ask about 5 times, and by the 5th time, somebody will finally say, oh gosh, I keep on putting this on my list and I haven't gotten to it. And so you have to be pleasantly persistent, but can you share what was it? Because I've had something like that recently too, where they keep going, tell us how your experience was with such and such.
It was just things in the last year, we've been great online shoppers, right? And so many of the companies, especially new startups, and that's the thing that's been kind of exciting about COVID in a way, if you have to find something exciting about it. There have been a lot of people that have really opened their online businesses. So I've ordered a lot of things from really small companies, or what I would think would be smaller companies, right? And they've been really good about asking for reviews. And I have, just like everybody else, I don't jump in and do the very first time they ask, but a couple times in, and it actually makes me feel good to do it. And that's only because we talk about it all the time and we want people to send us reviews. So right. I don't just write everything was great. Customer service was fine. I had an experience actually at CVS last week when I went into the pharmacy, where that pharmacist, I swear, and I can only imagine what he's been going through, behind their plastic bubble for the last year. He was so helpful, so courteous, and actually kind of snarky and funny. You know what I mean? So I wrote a great review on him, and I got an email back from the manager of the store thanking me for the review. It was really awesome.
See that? Now, you just hit on all the key things I want to cover about how important it is to acknowledge that and to keep trying, because I think why many agents ask one time and then don't follow up is they don't want to bother someone. That's or right. If I keep bothering them, then maybe they give me a bad review. And I think most people come from exactly the space you did, where I really appreciate how hard that person worked, especially if they come from a business mindset themselves, like the karma, the giving back of, you want to help someone that has got a business because you recognize that. It's emotional in nature, and you're going to be able to get people, like, oh, yes, I'll absolutely do it. But but it goes on their list of 10,000 things to do. Everybody has such huge list of tasks that it's not their priority. They got other priorities. And that's why you must ask for it and ask for it. So let me walk through what I think are the ways to do this asking. And I think we have it up here. Yeah, cool. So it's just 3 steps, right? So I want to walk through in the beginning. Now, obviously, you can't even begin to ask for reviews unless you have great profiles. That's what we covered that last week. You need to have, great headshots and already have it all filled out completely, so you look professional. So step 1, you start working with a buyer or a seller. And by the way, even a renter, if you're helping with somebody leasing a home, Zillow in particular will allow you to get a review from somebody you helped lease a property to. So first thing, just be aware, you can't cut and paste the reviews that you get from people onto all these platforms. Because some clients will ask you, can't you just, do that yourself? Or a lot of clients will say, well, why don't you write the review and I'll just, sign off on it. And you'll get all these weird things. So we're going to walk you through a way to help people by helping them get started with it and then how you continue to follow up with them. But the bottom line on this is that, no, you can't do that. That's the whole thing. Even though I think some people have gamed the system a little bit and they're having people, write reviews and whatnot. But at the same time, for Zillow and Realtor.com, it has to tie to a property. So in their system, it will say that you help this person buy or sell that house. So I like that, right? So you have to let them know, no, it's for the whole idea that this is a legitimate review. So the very first thing you do is when you start working with someone is you need to find out what sites they're on. So for a couple of reasons. One, you want to customize the email you're going to send to them later to just give them links to the places that they are on. And that way it won't feel so cumbersome. So if Matt's my new client that I'm going to show homes to today, and I'm going to have a conversation that goes something like, Matt, I don't know if you find that checking out things online and reviews is important to you. Is that something you do? Like, get them to tell you, because some people don't make a decision about anything unless they check it on. Like, even where they go, I always tell a story of my sister. One of my sisters got me using Yelp, which is ridiculous. They won't do anything, even in their own town, unless they go on Yelp and they have a whole thing that they go through, their own personal algorithm for. A restaurant has to have so many reviews, and then a percentage of them have to be at least 4.5 stars before they'll go eat there. All right. Let's face it. If you go buy something on Amazon, what's happening? You're looking at people's reviews. You're looking at reviews. That's how I buy. Do you do the same thing when you go in? Like, if you're on Etsy or you're on anywhere, are you looking at the reviews of what people say about anything?
You know what? I don't always make my decisions because of what what the reviews are, but I read the reviews. Let me just tell you a quick story. We do a lot of vacationing, obviously, right? We're wanderers. And we always go in when we're looking, especially like for a bed and breakfast or something, to see what the reviews are. And reading reviews can be an awful lot of fun, because you can always tell the people that did not have a good experience.
Yeah, 100%.
And a lot of times you can tell by reading what they wrote that it's really their fault they didn't have a good experience. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to filter some of the reviews that you find on sites too, because not all of them are what I would consider accurate.
I think that we all know that there's always angry people, and there's always people who are going to be the one who spoils the thing, and it legitimately had a bad experience.
Right.
But honestly, if you see 100 reviews and 99 are great, and one person is bitching about something, then you can kind of know, probably
you might want to throw that one out.
Mm-hmm. Not that it wasn't legitimate, but there's a key to that, and I'll come back to it about how you respond to reviews is important as well. All right, so beautiful. You're going to get into a conversation with people, and you're going to find out, and you may get them to say things like, I actually Googled you before I came in, because that's what people are doing, whether they tell you or not. Mm-hmm. So then the next thing I'm going to find out, not only for where I want to send the review, is I want to be able to connect with Matt on social media and stuff. So I'm going to ask him, let me ask you, what sites did you use? What real estate sites were you using when you were searching for homes? Because I want to find out, I need to find out if he's on Realtor.com and in Zillow in particular. So did he use Realtor.com? No. Great. Then I'm not going to send him the link to my Realtor.com place. But if he was on Zillow, which most people are, I'm definitely going to ask for that later. Okay, great. So you're already using Zillow, not Realtor.com. I think we're already connected on Facebook, right? So we, because they use Facebook, because you can send your link to your Facebook page where you can get reviews, and those do show up in a Google search. You can connect with them on LinkedIn if you want to. You can find out if they're a Yelp user. Now, if you're going to use Yelp as one of your primary places, then you want to find out, does he use Yelp? Hey, do you guys use Yelp? If he doesn't use Yelp, don't worry about it. You don't want to get people to give you a review on Yelp if they're not an active user, because it's really not going to show up. It doesn't really help you. And then the last one would be, do they use Google or Gmail? Do they have a Google account? Why? Because if you send them the link to your Google business location, they can only do it if they're signed into their Google account. And you don't want people to be frustrated with that. So you're going to do all that and you're going to put it into your notes. And it's also an opportunity to connect with them on LinkedIn or follow them on social and vice versa. Okay. Friend them on Facebook if that's what you do. Great. So now you're establishing where they are and the importance of reviews. And I might say something like, Matt, reviews have become such a critical part to all business owners and in particular. And one of the things I'm going to be asking you when we're done with the transaction, if you felt like the team here did a great job with you, would you be willing to give us a review? And I'm going to get his buy-in now. Maybe he tells me a story about how, so I had to establish reviews are important, why they're important, are they important to the client? They're definitely important to us, and it's going to help me if you're willing to do that later. And we're going to move on, and I'm not going to bring it up again until maybe midway through the transaction. The client might say something like, "Wow, you've been doing such a great job on this. I really appreciate blah blah blah." Then I might say something fun like, "Save it for the review, Matt." Okay, so that's another check-in along the way. And remember, we're setting the pace as opposed to waiting till the end and sending an email without any kind of setup. That's just going to go unnoticed. So now you get the deal closed, and I'm going to say to you, even if the transaction was tough, but you went the extra mile, and the transaction, had some hiccups, but you made it work. That sometimes is your best. You may be like, oh, I don't want to send that. They may feel like I might get a bad review, but not necessarily. You may get one of the best reviews to say, wow, Jan really made this deal happen when we had all these problems, blah, blah, blah. I highly recommend using her. People will do it. So now you're at the end of the deal and you want to, maybe you're at the closing table, whatever it is you're doing, and you're going to just remind them, hey, once you're all settled in, would you be so kind? It mean the world to me. I'm going to send you an email with a link to, as you told me earlier, you were on Zillow, you use Gmail, and you're a big Yelp user. So I'm just going to send you a reminder to where those are online for me. And by the way, Matt, you can use the same review. You don't have to write 3 different reviews. And I'm just going to send you an email that has some samples of reviews I already have, maybe a couple sentences to get you started. I know it's a pain to do these things, but honestly, if you could just take a couple minutes, it would really mean a lot to me. So you do that, they're going to say, absolutely, we 100% are going to do that for you. Then you're going to send it and you're going to get crickets because it's just a list of things, right? So don't take it personal. Don't be worried about it. Now that's where I say you need a campaign follow-up. Like you need to ask them at least 5 more times. So I recommend putting a reminder in your CRM to call, send a little text, have a couple more emails go out, and by about the 5th time, the person will be like, oh my gosh, I have been so promising I was going to do this. Let me just do it right now. And it literally is going to take about the 5th time before you get people to do it. They are not going to be upset with you. Don't worry. It's just exactly what we said at the top of the show here. Think about anybody that's asking you for reviews and you're like, oh, I don't have time to do that right now. I'll do it later. And it takes about 4 or 5 and maybe longer. So make sure in those emails and texts that you might be sending saying, hey, Matt, this is just a general reminder. Sometimes I don't get noticed that you did the review. If you did, thank you so much. If not, here's those links again. Something simple like that. And make it easy for them, send examples, and then people will do it for you.
Yeah, it's not that they don't want to do it. It's just that's just something that's not on their daily routine, right?
Now, a couple other things that you can do is if you're trying and they don't do it, like right away, you might send a little card or something, a little note card out as part of your closing process that has a little bit of a, incentive to write the review. Okay. The review companies do not like you to do this. If you read Yelp, it's like, don't pay people to do the review, meaning like don't give them a prize because they did it. But I don't think there's anything wrong with sending somebody a Starbucks card or a gas card or an Amazon card, for $10 or something, just saying, have a coffee on me. Thanks so much for taking the time to write that, quick review on those links that I sent you.
Yeah. It's like grab a cup of coffee and sit down and write a review.
There you go. Have some fun with it. Here you go, grab a cup of coffee, and that's awesome, right? So that's it. But it's so important that people are Googling you, and you got to start somewhere. And if you've been in business a long time, just start. Okay, so go back to everybody that you did business with last year. and get them to do this. Make a call before you send an email. Call them and say, hey, you know, this is something that I was really remiss in not taking care of last year. I really could use your help. Would you be willing to write a review of that transaction that we had? I have a little simple process. You know, find out where they are online and send it to them, and then you're good to go. So that is really powerful stuff. And the last thing, negative reviews. So I want to share two last things. When somebody gives you a review, I think it's powerful to respond to it. So I know a couple agents that are really good at this. And I'm thinking of one right now. Her name is Faith Harmer, and I did some coaching with her and her team a couple years ago, and she's in Las Vegas, a nice team there, does a lot of business, but she is awesome at this. If you just Googled her, Faith Harmer, Las Vegas real estate, you'll see what I mean by owning your presence online. Tons of reviews, but if you go in and look at her Yelp reviews, for example, or anywhere, and somebody gives her a review, she takes the time to stop and say, thank you, Matt. It was such a pleasure to work with you and Laura. I'm so happy that you found such and such. So it's this whole personable thing. If there's ever a negative review, and I think I've only seen one minor situation, maybe even for her, but if somebody gives a negative review, don't react to it right away. Don't go tit for tat and like, oh, that person was so horrible. I'm going to, do not do that. You do want to respond to it though. So you want to acknowledge it, right? You have to acknowledge it. That person had that experience, however you want to look at it. There's usually a way to say, Matt, I'm so sorry you had that experience. Even though we did X, Y, or Z, that might be a way for you to say that we tried all the ways to make it happen. We're so sorry, but we do want you to know you've helped us streamline our process on this or that, right? So now you can say, all they want to know, they want to be heard. Some people are just negative and want to be right. But in most cases, you don't win if you just come back and say, you were horrible. It wasn't me. You simply say, I understand and I empathize, and I'm sorry you had that experience.
Yeah, or this is how I learn. Thank you for your input. This is how I learn and grow and can blah, blah,
We
blah.
always are here to grow. We're always improving our system. So you can always do that. And that person may be good enough to come back and even take down the review or respond back. And then other people reading the review will go, okay, they just had a tough person and they dealt with it. And
that's the key right there, Mm-hmm. If other people
come back and put there, well, you're wrong and I'm right. Doesn't matter. The client had that experience, and you need to be able to empathize with the client.
That's right. We just had 4 years of that.
Yeah, 100%. So, all right. So listen, do not underestimate the power of this. Okay. I know it's a task. It's a thing that you need to do. You need to put it into your checklist. You will have to make several connections. I'm doing it right now with my last 2 transactions, and you'll tend to go, oh, maybe. What happens for most people, because this is what I do when I coach them, it's like, I asked, just like following up with a lead. I asked once or twice. I don't want to bother them anymore. I don't want to work on that. I'm going to move on. And then what happens is you could have had 20 reviews. It could be the difference between someone choosing you or not. Last story on this. I have a client a newer client that I was describing that how important Yelp is, especially in the area that she's in the country, which is in I think Peoria is who I'm thinking about right now. Yeah, it's her. And she's on Yelp, and she has 1 review on Yelp, and all her competitors, no one has any reviews, and other people are showing up because one of the things Yelp does is if you were to put into a search right now, real estate agents in Wesley Chapel, Florida, that's where I am. On the first page of Google, after you get past the Zillow and the Realtor.com list of agents and other agents that might show up, you're going to see the best 10 agents in Wesley Chapel. That's the thing Yelp does for any kind of business. Google plumbers in Anaheim, and you're going to see the 10 best plumbers. That's the thing Yelp owns. This is why Yelp is powerful. Yep. So she shows up for that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you are going to own this. So I want you to go, and I walk her through this process, and I'm like, go back, find out who's a Yelp user, get yourself 4 or 5 other reviews on this. This is going to really work for you. So the next time I had a coaching appointment with her, she goes, you're not going to believe what happened to me. She said, an investor that's from the West, somewhere out West, called me and talked to me and said that they picked me because of Yelp. And then she said, he gave me some advice. He goes, can I give you some advice? Because do you guys not use Yelp? Because I'm not the only person that's looking for your area. And my research is a great place to invest in properties. And out West, everyone uses Yelp. And that's the truth. Like in Vegas, you can't hardly break into the Yelp market in Las Vegas for real estate because people understand it. Same in some places in California. But this investor was like, other people will find you. And this is why I went and did all my research. And you're like the only one who came up. And so she totally got that reinforcement. So I'm like, go get 4 or 5 more reviews. You're going to kill it. and she's not paying for Yelp. She's just showing up because Yelp wants to be able to deliver a result that says, here's the best agents in, Peoria or wherever, USA or Canada or wherever you are. So try that. Embrace Yelp. It's kind of like a Zillow. It's a love-hate relationship with those for a lot of people, because you'll find that people will complain about Yelp burying some of their reviews, and magically when you are paying for advertisement, your reviews get show up. And you will see this, like we have reviews on our WBNL coaching, and you'll see that some of the reviews are hidden, and you have to come down and see all the reviews, and this review is not showing because it doesn't meet the algorithm. It's some secret algorithm, and I don't know what that algorithm is. I think it has a lot to do with whether or not you're a Yelp's, paid, not subscriber, but paid advertiser.
Funny how that
I don't have 100% proof of that, but I feel like I have a little bit of proof of that. So anyway, use them. It can get business for you. It does work. People go there, just like people go to Zillow. It's not going away, in my opinion. So Angie's List, that could help a little bit too if it's big in your area. So there you have it, folks. Get reviews, have a great online presence, get reviews, make it part of your system. It's going to help reinforce the people that are working with you chose the right person, and it's going to help you find people will just find you. Bottom line.
Good stuff, Jen O'Brien.
You're listening to the Wandering But Not Lost podcast, where real estate and reality meet. Join us and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and now on YouTube.
Well, that is a wrap for the WBNL podcast, where real estate and reality meet. All of our show notes over at WBNLpodcast.com. If you like what you heard today, make sure you leave us a review there on in the Apple podcast platform, or wherever you're listening to our podcast. We always appreciate our listeners. Jen O'Brien, I think it's time for a Sunshine State check-in. You've been there for a little while. How are things going?
It's awesome here. I'm loving living in Florida. My sister and I were just talking about maybe sauntering down to getting up and getting out to go to downtown Tampa. They have a beautiful boardwalk area. I want to start capturing some videos and images I want to use. I am officially a realtor here. I am with the Pinellas Realtor organization here in town, so I'm ready to help anybody working on building some people to join our team here in the Wesley Chapel / North Tampa area, all the way down to St. Pete, Clearwater, all the way over to Orlando. Actually, are the areas that we can serve through my
Orlando, I love you, Orlando.
Orlando, you guys will be coming out to go to Disney eventually, I would imagine.
We're more Universal people on the East Coast, but yeah.
Well, if you do come out here to visit, I'll go with you to Universal. I've never been to a Universal Studios adventure, so that would be fun. But it's beautiful here. The weather's been great. Loving it. I'm ready to get out and explore more. Doing a lot of work, just like we all are. We're always working. So we're committed to doing things on the weekends to get up, get out, and enjoy, and be safely doing it.
I love it. Now, Jen O'Brien, you know that bridge south of Tampa, is it the Sunshine State Bridge or the Sunshine Bridge? What's the name of that bridge? That beautiful bridge.
I don't know. Lorraine's sister probably knows.
You need to take pictures of that bridge. It's one of my favorite bridges in the United States.
She says it's the Sunshine Bridge.
That's it. It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous bridge.
Okay.
So you down there taking snaps of that picture. They'll show up in all of our presentations. Not all of them.
Well, I am going to be gathering some photos this weekend, and I got a gimbal. I would think I mentioned that.
That's
I got a gimbal that our partner Cosmo recommended. So I'm going to play with that a little bit and start gathering some information so I can start being create some things on YouTube, right? So
That's right. And speaking of YouTube, we do coaching tips every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Jan does her coach and lifestyle, meditative, inspirational tips on Monday. Cosmo Morabi does his tech tips on Tuesday, which are always really awesome. And then I round that out with Canva marketing tips on Wednesday. So don't forget to catch those in our private Facebook group. And if you're not a member of our group, go over to Facebook and type in WBNL Wanderers Club. And we'd be more than happy to let you on in so you can get a plethora of real estate training weekly.
And Matt, would you do us a favor? You did mention it. Will you put in our notes today the links to our we're going to ask. See, if you don't ask, just like getting referrals, getting reviews. If you don't ask, you don't get them. So you mentioned a moment ago, but we're going to put our link to our Facebook page and our Yelp site and our Google site. See if you are someone who's been listening, or you have worked with us in the past and you are so inclined to give us a review, we would really appreciate that. That's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. Just ask and see if people will do that for you. So those links will be in our show notes at episode 156 at wbnlpodcast.com.
That's right. All right, everybody, get up, get out. You know what? Live the life you've dreamed and be forever wandering, but not lost.